The fluorescent lights of the hospital hallway hummed a monotonous tune, a sound that usually meant comfort to Chloe. Tonight, it felt like judgment. At 23 years old and 8 months pregnant, her dark green scrub stretched tightly across her belly. The fabric had grown soft from endless 12-hour shifts, but tonight even that familiar comfort felt like sandpaper against her aching body. Every step toward the elevator felt heavier than the last. Her lower back throbbed. Her feet burned. Fatigue settled deep in her bones like cold winter air. But despite everything, a small hopeful warmth lived inside her chest. Soon she would be home. Soon she would fall into Mark's arms. For years, that thought had kept her going. Mark Weston, the ambitious corporate golden boy climbing the ladder of success, while Chloe worked quietly behind the scenes, supporting him, believing in him, sacrificing for him. Everything they were building was supposed to be for their future, for their son. The elevator doors slid open onto the private penthouse floor. Chloe stepped out slowly, one hand pressed against the small of her back. Something felt wrong immediately. The silence, not the peaceful kind. A cold, hollow silence. The kind that made the air feel heavy. Mark stood near the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the glittering city skyline. His back faced her, perfectly still, his figure sharply outlined against the lights. He looked exactly like he always did. Perfect, immaculate. His Tom Ford suit hugged his frame like it had been stitched directly onto his body. Not a single wrinkle, not a single hair out of place. Chloe waited for him to turn around. He didn't. "You're late," he said flatly. No warmth, no concern, just irritation. "Sorry," Chloe murmured quietly. It was a rough shift. There was a pile-up on the interstate. She paused, waiting for him to turn, waiting for him to ask if she was okay, waiting for the man she loved. But Mark didn't move. Instead, he slowly turned toward her. His expression was calm, too calm. In his hand was a thick manila envelope. "We need to talk." A cold knot formed in Chloe's stomach. "Mark, is everything all right?" He walked toward her, not with affection, not with urgency, but with the slow, measured steps of a businessman closing a deal. He stopped several feet away from her. The distance between them suddenly felt like an ocean. "I've been thinking about this for a while," he said. "This isn't working anymore." Chloe blinked. Her exhausted brain struggled to understand the words. "What do you mean?" "We're having a baby in a few weeks, Mark." She rested her hand protectively on her belly. "That's part of the problem," he replied. His eyes flicked down at her stomach with something dangerously close to disgust. "Our lives are going in different directions. I'm the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company now. I need a partner who fits that world, someone who complements my image." He placed the envelope on the marble countertop. "These are divorce papers." Chloe stared at the envelope like it was a weapon. "I met someone." The world tilted. Isabella. The name shattered her remaining denial. Isabella Vance. The glamorous socialite whose face appeared in every society magazine. The woman who had been photographed beside Mark at charity galas and corporate dinners. Events Mark always said Chloe was too tired to attend. "You're divorcing me for her?" Chloe whispered. Her voice cracked. "I'm 8 months pregnant." Mark adjusted his cufflinks casually. "It's a strategic decision. Her family's connections are extremely valuable. It's a merger." Chloe felt like she'd been punched in the chest. "Our son, he'll be taken care of financially," Mark interrupted. "I've arranged a settlement. You'll need to move out by morning." The words hit harder than any slap. "By morning?" "Yes. Isabella will be moving in tomorrow." He turned away as if the conversation was finished. Just like that. 10 years of love. 5 years of marriage. Gone. Chloe stood frozen. The divorce papers lay on the counter like a gravestone. Her entire future had just been erased. The penthouse around her suddenly felt unfamiliar. Every painting, every piece of furniture, every polished surface had been chosen by Mark. She had never really belonged here. She had simply been another one of his acquisitions. And now she had depreciated. Her hands trembled as she picked up the papers. The ink looked impossibly black. Final. Real. A broken sound escaped her throat. She collapsed into a velvet armchair that cost more than her yearly salary, but offered no comfort. Tears streamed down her face. He called their baby a problem. He called his affair a merger. He called her life disposable. The cruelty was suffocating. But slowly, something inside Chloe hardened. She wiped her face. Fine. If he wanted her gone by morning, she would leave. She packed quietly. A small duffel bag, her nursing textbooks, a few photos, a worn paperback novel she carried since college, a few maternity clothes. That was all she owned that truly belonged to her. She zipped the bag closed. The sound echoed in the silent penthouse. Without looking back, Chloe walked to the door. She placed the keys beside the divorce papers. Then she left. The door clicked shut behind her. Outside, rain poured from the dark sky. Cold, relentless. The city lights blurred through the falling water. Chloe pulled her thin jacket tighter around herself. She had no destination, no home, no plan, just a duffel bag, and a child growing inside her. She began walking. Hours passed. The rain soaked through her clothes. Taxis splashed dirty water across the sidewalk. People hurried past beneath umbrellas without noticing her. The city that once felt full of opportunity now felt predatory. Cold, unforgiving. Pain twisted through her abdomen. Stress contractions. Her legs trembled. Her body finally gave out. Chloe collapsed against a brick wall of a quiet building. Her vision blurred. Black spots danced across her sight. She slid slowly down the wall until she sat on the wet pavement. The elegant restaurant behind her had a discreet sign written in Korean calligraphy. Solis. Inside the restaurant, a man watched the security monitors. His name was June, and Solis was merely the public face of a far more powerful empire. June noticed everything, and the sight of a heavily pregnant woman collapsing in the rain outside his door caught his attention immediately. She didn't look like a beggar. She looked broken, shipwrecked. June leaned forward slightly. Min-June, a man in a tailored black suit, appeared instantly. Yes, sir. There is a woman outside. Min-June glanced at the screen. Sir, could she be trouble? June studied Chloe's exhausted figure. No, she is in trouble. That is different. Bring her inside. Prepare a private suite, and have the kitchen make soup. Min-June bowed slightly. At once, two men stepped out into the rain. They approached Chloe gently. Ma'am, one said softly, our employer has invited you inside. Chloe looked up weakly. Fear flickered across her face. But the warm light spilling from the restaurant doorway felt like salvation compared to the freezing street. Her body made the choice for her. She nodded. The men helped her to her feet. As they guided her inside, Chloe glanced up weakly. At the top of a grand staircase stood a man with piercing dark eyes, watching her, studying her. The world faded into black. Chloe woke slowly. Soft sheets, warm air, the scent of ginger and lemongrass. For a moment, she thought she was back home. Then reality returned. The room was unfamiliar, elegant, minimalist luxury. Her scrubs were gone. She now wore soft silk pajamas. Her duffel bag rested neatly in the corner. A quiet knock came from the door. Then it opened. The man from the staircase entered. Up close, he was even more imposing. Tall, lean, dangerously calm. He carried a tray of steaming soup. You fainted, he said calmly. My men brought you inside. Chloe pushed herself up. Where am I? You are safe. He set the tray beside her. And you should eat. It will help with the exhaustion. Chloe hesitated. Why are you helping me? June sat in a nearby chair. My mother believed ignoring someone in need was dishonorable. You were in need. His dark eyes held hers. Now eat. Chloe slowly lifted the spoon. The soup was rich, warm, comforting. For the first time in hours, her body relaxed. When she finished, June asked one question. What is your name? Chloe. Chloe, he repeated softly. Why were you sleeping in the rain? The dam broke. Chloe told him everything. The hospital shift, the divorce, the betrayal, the baby, Mark. Isabella, being thrown out. June listened silently. When she finished, he spoke only 4 words. He is a fool. Chloe looked at him. June's gaze hardened. He threw away a diamond. Then he stood. Rest now. No one will harm you here. Tomorrow, his voice grew colder. We will decide what to do about this man. Morning sunlight filtered softly through the sheer silk curtains of the private suite, painting warm golden streaks across the polished wooden floor. Chloe woke slowly. For a brief moment, she didn't remember where she was. The bed beneath her felt impossibly comfortable, far different from the narrow mattress she had grown used to in the penthouse guest room Mark had forced her into during the final months of pregnancy. Then everything came rushing back. The divorce, the rain, the street. June, her hand instinctively moved to her stomach. The baby shifted gently inside her, a reassuring reminder that she wasn't alone. Chloe exhaled slowly. She sat up in the bed and noticed something that made her pause. On the small table beside her sat a tray with breakfast, fresh fruit, warm rice porridge, herbal tea, a note. She picked it up. The handwriting was neat and deliberate. Eat first. We will talk when you are ready. June. Something about that simple message stirred an unfamiliar feeling in her chest. Respect. Care. Not obligation. Not control. Just consideration. Chloe ate slowly, her strength returning with every bite. For the first time in weeks, the tight knot of anxiety in her chest loosened. Someone had taken care of her. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. A quiet knock came at the door. "Come in," she said softly. The door opened. June entered the room. He looked exactly as composed as the night before. Dark tailored trousers, a black shirt, no tie. His movements were controlled, deliberate. But when his eyes landed on Chloe, something softened slightly. "You slept well," he observed. Chloe nodded. "Better than I have in months." June glanced at the empty tray. "Good." He stepped further into the room. Behind him followed a sharply dressed older woman, carrying a leather briefcase. "This is Mrs. Kim," June said. "She is my legal counsel." Mrs. Kim smiled politely, but her eyes were razor-sharp. "Good morning, Ms. Miller," she said. "May I see the divorce documents your husband gave you?" Chloe hesitated. Then she reached into her duffel bag and handed over the envelope. Mrs. Kim sat down and began reading through the papers carefully, page by page, line by line. Her expression slowly darkened. By the time she finished, her lips had tightened into a thin line. "This is insulting," she said finally. Chloe blinked. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Kim placed the papers neatly on the table. "Your husband has attempted to hide the majority of your marital assets." "How?" "Shell companies, offshore accounts, fraudulent transfers." Chloe felt her stomach twist. "That's illegal." Mrs. Kim nodded calmly. "Very." June leaned casually against the window. His voice remained calm. "Mark Weston assumed you would not fight." Chloe looked down. "He always made the financial decisions. I trusted him." Mrs. Kim tapped the document. "That trust was exploited. But it also means we have leverage." Chloe looked up slowly. "What kind of leverage?" June stepped forward. "The kind that destroys empires." Over the next several days, Chloe witnessed something she had never seen before. Precision, power, control. June's organization moved like a machine. Financial analysts traced Mark's hidden accounts. Private investigators uncovered illegal transfers. Lawyers assembled evidence. Every secret Mark had buried was dragged into the light. And it all happened with terrifying speed. June explained things to Chloe in the evenings. Patiently, carefully, like a mentor teaching a student. "Your husband believes power is money," June said one night while pouring tea. "But real power is information." Chloe listened intently. "He believes you are weak because you are kind," June continued. "But kindness is not weakness." He met her gaze. "It is simply a blade most people do not know how to wield." Something inside Chloe changed during those conversations. For years she had believed Mark's version of her. Soft, naive, replaceable. June saw something different. strength, intelligence, potential. And slowly, Chloe began seeing it too. One evening, Mrs. Kim arrived carrying a cream-colored envelope. "This came today," she said. Chloe opened it. Her breath caught. An elegant invitation card slid into her hands. "Mark Weston and Isabella Vance request the pleasure of your company at their engagement celebration. The event will be held at the Monarch Hotel, the most exclusive venue in the city." June watched Chloe carefully. "What do you think this means?" he asked. Chloe's jaw tightened. "It's a message." "Exactly," June said. "He wants to show the world he replaced you. He expects you to disappear quietly." Chloe looked down at the invitation. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she looked up. Her eyes were different now. Cold, focused. "Then maybe I should attend." June's lips curved slightly. "Yes, you should." The plan took shape quickly. It was bold, theatrical, perfect. On the night of the engagement party, Chloe stood before a mirror. She barely recognized herself. Her emerald silk gown flowed elegantly over her pregnant belly. Her hair was styled into a graceful updo. Her makeup was subtle but powerful. She looked strong, regal, unbreakable. June waited downstairs. He wore a perfectly tailored black tuxedo. When Chloe reached the bottom of the staircase, he looked up. For a moment, the famously composed June looked stunned. "You are magnificent," he said quietly. Chloe smiled. "Ready?" June offered his arm. "Always." The Monarch Hotel ballroom glittered with wealth and arrogance. Champagne glasses clinked. Politicians mingled with billionaires. Mark Weston stood proudly at the center beside Isabella Vance. She wore a diamond ring worth more than most houses. Mark looked confident, victorious, until the doors opened. The room fell silent. Chloe entered, June at her side. The entire ballroom froze. Guests whispered. Eyes widened. Mark's face drained of color. Chloe walked forward slowly, gracefully, every step deliberate. When she reached him, she smiled. "Hello, Mark." His voice shook. "What are you doing here?" Chloe held up the invitation. "You invited me." Mark looked at June. "Who the hell is this?" "An associate," Chloe replied calmly. At that moment, Mrs. Kim stepped forward. She handed Mark a document. "Mr. Weston," she said loudly enough for the nearby guests to hear. "You are being served." The whispers grew louder. Mrs. Kim continued. "This is a court order freezing the assets of 3 offshore corporations under investigation for illegal financial transfers." Mark's face went white. "This is ridiculous." "Oh," Chloe said sweetly, "we have proof. Every transaction, every wire transfer, every hidden account." A wave of murmurs swept through the ballroom. Investors stared. Journalists whispered. Isabella looked horrified. Chloe leaned slightly closer to Mark. "You should probably call your lawyer." She paused. "Actually, he might be busy speaking with federal investigators." Then she turned, placed her hand on June's arm, and walked out, leaving chaos behind. By morning, the headlines exploded. CEO Mark Weston accused of fraud. Weston engagement party ends in scandal. Investigation launched into corporate asset hiding. Investors panicked. The board called an emergency meeting. Isabella's family began distancing themselves immediately. Mark's empire began collapsing. And Chloe watched it all unfold from the quiet comfort of June's rooftop garden. For the first time since the divorce, she felt free. But Mark wasn't finished. 2 days later, he stormed into June's restaurant, furious, demanding, "I want to see my wife." 2 men blocked his path calmly. "She is not available." "Move," Mark snarled. Then a voice echoed behind him. "She is not your wife." June stepped out of the shadows. The air in the room changed instantly. Mark tried to maintain his arrogance. "You think you scare me?" June stepped closer. His voice was barely above a whisper. "You will sign the settlement Mrs. Kim gives you. You will never contact her again. If you do..." June's eyes darkened. "I will take everything." Mark finally understood something. The man standing in front of him was far more dangerous than money. Fear crept into his expression. He nodded, and left. Later that night, Chloe found June standing in the rooftop garden. City lights stretched endlessly below them. "Thank you," she said quietly. June didn't look at her. "He will not bother you again." Chloe studied him. "You're powerful." "Yes." "Does it scare you?" he asked. Chloe shook her head. "No." She stepped closer. "It makes me feel safe." June finally looked at her, and for the first time, he reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You are remarkable, Chloe." The moment lingered between them. Quiet, electric. The war with Mark was ending, but something new, something far more powerful, was just beginning. After the chaos of the engagement party, life slowly settled into a strange new rhythm. The storm that had been Mark Weston faded almost as quickly as it had erupted. His company's board removed him within days. Investors fled. The media devoured every scandalous detail of the investigation. Within weeks, Mark Weston had become a disgraced name whispered in business circles rather than the powerful so everyone once feared. Chloe rarely thought about him anymore, and when she did, she felt nothing. No anger, no heartbreak, just distance, like remembering someone from a past life. Her focus had shifted to something far more important: the baby. Every morning she woke in the quiet luxury of June's private residence above the restaurant. The space had become her sanctuary. Warm sunlight streamed through tall windows. Soft music drifted through the halls. And the constant feeling of safety surrounded her like an invisible shield. June never intruded. He never demanded, but he was always present, always aware, always watching over her. The staff treated her with careful respect. Meals were prepared exactly how her doctor recommended. Her appointments were scheduled without her needing to ask. Comfortable maternity clothing appeared in her closet as if by magic. At first, Chloe felt uneasy about the attention. She wasn't used to being cared for like this. But slowly, she realized something important. June wasn't trying to control her life the way Mark had. He was simply protecting it. And the difference meant everything. One evening, Chloe found June sitting in the library. The room smelled faintly of old books and sandalwood. He sat at the long wooden table, reviewing documents while a soft lamp illuminated the pages. He looked up when she entered. "You should be resting." Chloe smiled slightly. "I've rested enough for 3 lifetimes." June closed the folder in front of him. "Then sit." She lowered herself into the chair across from him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They had grown comfortable with silence. It wasn't awkward. It was peaceful. Finally, Chloe broke it. "Why are you helping me?" June studied her carefully. "I already told you. My mother believed ignoring someone in need was dishonorable." Chloe tilted her head. "That can't be the only reason." June didn't answer immediately. Instead, he leaned back in his chair and looked toward the dark city skyline outside the window. "You remind me of someone," he said quietly. Chloe waited. "My daughter?" The word surprised her. "You had a daughter?" June nodded once. Her name was Hannah. Chloe saw something change in his expression, a crack in the perfect composure he always maintained. "She would have been about your age now." Chloe felt a strange ache in her chest. "What happened to her?" June's voice remained calm, but beneath it, pain lived there. "A rival family decided hurting me was the easiest way to destroy me. They were wrong. But my family paid the price." Silence filled the room. Chloe didn't know what to say. For the first time, she saw the truth behind June's power. It wasn't ambition. It was survival. He had already lost everything once, and he had built his empire from the ashes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. June looked at her. For a moment, the cold, calculating leader disappeared. In his place was simply a man who had carried grief for far too long. "You and your child deserve protection," he said, "and I intend to give it." Weeks passed. Chloe's pregnancy moved into its final stage. June insisted she stop working at the hospital. At first she protested, but eventually she agreed. Her body needed rest, and the baby would arrive soon. June arranged for the best obstetrician in the city. A private hospital suite was reserved weeks in advance. Every detail had been planned. But nothing could truly prepare them for the night. Everything changed. Chloe woke suddenly. Pain shot through her abdomen. Not the mild Braxton Hicks contractions she had grown used to. This was different. Stronger. Sharper. She inhaled slowly. Then another wave hit. Her breath caught. "It's time," she whispered. She pressed the intercom button. Beside her bed, June. Within seconds, a door burst open. June entered immediately. Fully awake. Alert. He had likely never been asleep at all. "What happened?" Chloe gripped the bedsheet. "The baby." June didn't panic, but his entire posture shifted. Focused. Precise. He grabbed the prepared hospital bag. "Min June," he called calmly. The assistant appeared instantly. "The car." "It's ready, sir." June returned to Chloe's side. He knelt beside the bed. "Breathe." Another contraction ripped through her. "I can't." "Yes, you can." His voice was steady. Firm. "I'm here." He lifted her into his arms effortlessly and carried her downstairs. The black sedan was already waiting. The drive through the city blurred into flashing lights and growing contractions. Chloe clutched June's hand as the pain intensified. "Stay with me," he told her. She nodded weakly. The hospital had been fully prepared. Doctors rushed them directly into the private maternity wing. June stayed beside her through everything. Hour after hour, he never left. He held her hand, wiped sweat from her forehead, encouraged her when the pain became overwhelming. At one point, Chloe cried out in exhaustion, "I can't do this." June leaned close. "You are the strongest woman I have ever met. You can do anything. Now push." His belief in her was powerful, stronger than the pain, stronger than the fear. After 14 exhausting hours, a newborn cry finally filled the room. Chloe collapsed back against the pillows. Tears streamed down her face. "It's a boy," the doctor announced. They placed the tiny baby on her chest. Chloe looked down at him. Dark curly hair, tiny fingers, perfect. Every struggle, every heartbreak, every sacrifice suddenly felt worth it. "He's beautiful," she whispered. The nurses cleaned and wrapped the baby before gently placing him back into Chloe's arms. A soft knock came at the door. June stepped inside slowly. His eyes immediately locked onto the child. For the first time since Chloe met him, June looked completely speechless. "Do you want to hold him?" Chloe asked softly. June hesitated, then nodded. Chloe carefully placed the baby into his arms. The powerful Mafia boss held the tiny infant with surprising gentleness. His large hand supported the baby carefully. He looked down at the child in awe. A single tear slid down his cheek. "I never thought I would hold a child again," he whispered. Chloe watched him quietly. The hardened leader, the feared man, standing there completely vulnerable. "What's his name?" June asked. Chloe smiled softly. "Noah." June repeated it quietly. "Noah." And in that moment, something unspoken formed between them. Not just an alliance, not just protection, but family. Months passed quickly. Noah grew stronger every day. He laughed easily. He slept peacefully. And he adored June. The powerful man who ruled an empire somehow became the most patient figure in the world when holding the baby. June had never planned to become a father again, but life had other ideas. And slowly, the quiet residence above, Solis transformed into something warmer, something deeper, something real. Chloe had found a new life, a new purpose, and perhaps a new love. 6 months passed faster than Chloe could have imagined. The sleepless nights, the soft cries in the early morning hours, the tiny fingers gripping her hand. Every moment with Noah felt precious. The quiet residence above Solis had transformed completely. What had once been June's private sanctuary had become a home. Toys now rested in corners of rooms once reserved for serious meetings. A crib stood beside Chloe's bed, and laughter, something that had rarely existed in June's life, now echoed to the halls almost every day. Noah had quickly become the center of their world, but something else had quietly changed as well. Chloe herself. She was no longer the exhausted nurse abandoned in the rain. She was no longer the broken wife Mark Weston had discarded. She had rebuilt herself. stronger, smarter, more confident than she had ever been before. June had made sure of it. He never treated her like someone who needed saving. Instead, he treated her like someone who deserved power. And over time, Chloe began stepping into that role. One morning, Chloe sat in June's office reviewing documents. Min-June stood nearby, watching carefully. He still remembered the first day Chloe arrived, so fragile she could barely stand. Now she looked entirely different. Focused, calm, confident. June entered the room quietly. Noah rested comfortably in his arms. The baby giggled when he saw Chloe. "Morning," Chloe said with a warm smile. June placed Noah gently into a play seat beside her desk. "He refused a nap," June explained. Chloe laughed softly. "He gets that from you." June raised an eyebrow. "I sleep perfectly well. Only when everything in the city is under control," she teased. June didn't deny it. Instead, he sat across from her. "What are you reviewing?" Chloe lifted the document, the foundation budget. June nodded. 6 months earlier, he had placed Chloe in charge of his largest philanthropic foundation. It funded medical clinics across the city. But like everything in June's world, it served more than one purpose. The clinics helped thousands of people, but they also created loyalty, information, influence, and Chloe had become the perfect leader for it. People trusted her because she truly cared. That authenticity made her powerful in ways June couldn't replicate. "You've expanded the program," June observed. Chloe nodded. "There are neighborhoods without health care within 10 miles. We can change that." June studied her quietly. "You've learned quickly." Chloe smiled slightly. "I had a good teacher." The transformation was obvious to everyone. Even June's closest advisors had begun treating Chloe with the respect of a leader. She attended meetings, offered insight, and occasionally surprised everyone with her strategic thinking. June watched it all with quiet pride. But not everyone was happy about their growing influence, because power never grows quietly, and enemies always watch. One evening, June stood on the penthouse balcony overlooking the city. Chloe joined him. Noah slept peacefully in her arms. The city lights stretched endlessly across the skyline. It was beautiful, but June's expression remained thoughtful. "What is it?" Chloe asked softly. June exhaled slowly. "Trouble." Chloe didn't panic. After months in June's world, she understood what that meant. "Who?" "The Petrov Syndicate." Chloe had heard the name before. A powerful Eastern European criminal organization. "They've been expanding into the city," June continued, "and they want control of territory that belongs to me." Chloe looked down at Noah sleeping peacefully. "So they'll attack?" June nodded once. "Eventually. Then we'll deal with it," Chloe said calmly. June looked at her, not surprised, just impressed. "You become very fearless." Chloe smiled faintly. "I'm not fearless." She glanced at Noah. "I just know what matters now." June wrapped his arm around both of them. "And I will protect what matters." But enemies rarely wait politely. 3 nights later, a message arrived. One of June's smaller businesses had been attacked. The building burned. No casualties, but the warning was clear. The Petrov Syndicate had arrived. Min-June entered June's office with the report. "They want a meeting." June's eyes narrowed slightly. "Of course they do." Chloe sat quietly beside him. "What will you do?" June stood slowly. "Meet them." Chloe shook her head. "That's exactly what they want." June studied her. "Explain." Chloe leaned forward. "They expect you to react aggressively, because that's how every criminal empire works." June listened carefully. "But you don't have to fight their war." "What do you suggest?" Chloe smiled faintly. "We make them lose without firing a single shot." June's eyes gleamed with interest. "Continue." Over the next week, Chloe helped design something unexpected. Instead of attacking the Petrov Syndicate, June targeted their money, financial investigations, political pressure, business shutdowns, hidden partnerships. The syndicate's operations began collapsing quietly. Bank accounts froze. Shipping routes disappeared. Suppliers vanished. by the time the Petrov leaders realized what was happening. Their empire in the city was already falling apart. They requested another meeting. This time, June agreed. The meeting took place in a private hotel suite. The Petrov leader arrived with armed guards. June arrived with only Min-June and Chloe. The room grew tense immediately. The Petrov leader looked surprised. "You brought a woman?" June answered calmly. "She is my partner." Chloe stepped forward and placed a folder on the table. Inside were financial documents, evidence, records, proof that their operations had been dismantled. "If you continue expanding here," Chloe said calmly, "everything you still own in this country disappears." The Petrov leader stared at her, realizing something important. This wasn't just June's empire anymore. It was theirs. After a long silence, he closed the folder. "We will leave the city." The war ended before it truly began. That night, Chloe stood once again on the balcony of their penthouse. Noah slept peacefully inside. June joined her. "You ended a war," he said quietly. Chloe shrugged slightly. "You taught me how power works." June stepped closer. "But you used it better than I would have." Chloe laughed softly. "You're just biased." June shook his head. "No." He gently lifted her chin. "You are extraordinary." For a moment, neither of them moved. The city stretched endlessly beneath them. Finally, June spoke again. "You know what this means." Chloe tilted her head. "What?" "This city," June gestured toward the skyline, "belongs to us now." Chloe looked out over the lights. She remembered the night she had walked these streets alone, pregnant, broken, thrown away. Now everything was different. She wasn't powerless anymore. She wasn't alone. She had built something new, something stronger than anything Mark Weston had ever imagined. June wrapped his arms around her from behind. "And a queen never abandons her kingdom." Chloe smiled softly. "And a king never stands alone." Inside the penthouse, Noah stirred in his crib. The sound made both of them laugh quietly. Their empire, their family, their future. It had all been born from betrayal, but now it belonged to them. And this time, no one would ever take it away.